Like and subscribe. Pretty please. Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real, that normal people insist exists? It's federal law in the US that a plainclothes or undercover police officer has to identify themselves as law enforcement if asked. No, it's not the law, and they can tell you whatever the fuck they want. I'm reminded of that Breaking Bad cold open, where Badger gets arrested for selling product to an undercover officer because of this exact made up law lol. They can do drugs. To prove they aren't a cop too, an undercover cop went to court to get his rehab for cocaine covered by workers' comp. It was covered. It's a law that exists but widely misunderstood, is the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a government agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This actually happened to an old high school teacher of mine. He thought he was going on a date with a lady he met online. When they met up for the date, who happened to be an undercover officer, she was like, "I'm not really interested in a date, but for blank dollars I'll do blank," to which he obliged. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute, but the charges were dropped since he was only actually interested in the date and had no desire to solicit anything until the officer brought it up. That is exactly the classic scenario that the law is written to prevent. Driving with interior overhead car lights on is not illegal. Your mom told you that was illegal when you were a kid too, huh? No laws against driving barefoot. Saw this and immediately went to Google to disprove, but you're absolutely right. I've been told this my entire life and always thought it was dumb. The reasoning everyone always told me was because the vibrations from the pedals would make your foot fall asleep or go numb, so you wouldn't have as much control. Even though I know so many people who drive barefoot and have never heard one of them say that their foot fell asleep. In the UK, that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16. Beer, wine, see idea, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home and they are over the age of 5. You can buy alcohol with a meal, but do restaurants have a final say as to whether or not they'll serve it? Yes, the restaurant chain I used to work at wouldn't sell alcohol to anyone under 18, even if it was just one beer to have with a meal. Good Samaritan laws aren't nearly as broad as people think. For context, I work in emergency services. Some people believe that I was trying to help are the magic words that can get them out of any sticky situation. Edit. Good Sam laws vary by country and state, and the medical examples are a little more black and white than others. Adding a non-medical example of what I'm talking about. Imagine you're driving your car and notice someone on the side of the road who needs help. As you swerve off the road to provide assistance to this person in need, you incidentally run over a child on the sidewalk. After the situation is over, you're definitely not free from the consequences of running over the child with your car just because you had good intentions of helping someone else. Versions of that story have occurred, and the drivers have tried to use a good Samaritan defense because they meant well. There is absolutely some gray area on the subject, but if your unprompted action undoubtedly makes the situation worse than if you've done nothing, having good intentions is not a get out of jail free card, and a bunch of people don't understand that concept. In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's driveway. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offense, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people, as many think that they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. Freedom of speech in my country. That's from watching too many US movies. Even in the US, most people don't understand freedom of speech. All it really means is that the state can't prevent you from saying/publishing certain things, i.e., speaking out against the government, controversial opinions, etc. It has nothing to do with interactions between private citizens. Unless someone is specifically insisting violence, I have absolutely no obligation to respect anyone's freedom of speech, since I'm not the state. It also have nothing to do with whether Twitter will let you say it. You have freedom of speech, but Twitter are not obligated to provide you their platform to speak on, and they can deny it for virtually any reason they like. And no, you can't go out into the street and just start yelling, breach of peace, or lots of other things. You have a freedom, but that does not mean you're just allowed to make others enable that. Freedom for you. Yes, a right defines things that can't be taken from you. It doesn't define what others must give you. The government can't take away your right to speak freely, but other parties are under no obligation to enable you to do so. US ex-lawyer here. There is no law that requires the police to provide you with their name and badge number when asked. There may be internal policies, but it's not the law. There is also no law that requires the police to get a supervisor if demanded. Again, policy vs law. There is no law that allows you to question whether an order given by the police is lawful or not. A court has to decide if the order was lawful after the fact, but there are laws to punish you if you do not comply. That's a bit scary. Police departments have gone to court to argue against the need to protect or serve. The police are not your friends. They are there to maintain order as they see it. Paralegal. A lot of people think that the law requires you to be a good decent person. If I'm sitting on a bench and see a blind person about to walk into the path of a bus, it's completely legal for me in the United States to remain silent, take my cell phone out, and take a video of his death. It's even legal for me to profit from the video. I'd be a monster for doing it, but there's no law imposing a duty on me to tell this stranger, watch out for that bus. You should never tell a blind guy to watch out for a bus. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. Comes up all the time, in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them. Nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually, what people mean when they say that is, don't believe them. They're lying. Which, fair enough, but that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence, just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that, in most cases, you can't have person A say that person B said is, in order to prove that this actually is true. Hearsay, get it? I heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. And, extremely importantly, it also doesn't count as hearsay when person B is actually the person on the other side of the case. Person A is totally allowed to say, person B told me, yes, I will commit the crime on Tuesday, if person B is the defendant, who has been accused of committing the crime on Tuesday. You don't get to complain it's hearsay if you're the one who supposedly said the thing they heard. In my country, some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime, and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought, but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without the victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases, of course, but when people say press charges, they believe they can do this via the police. Works this way in Canada as well. US prosecutor here. In my state, there actually is a mechanism to file a private criminal complaint. Very few people have heard of it, but those that have are often mentally ill and or conspiracy theorists. Our process is the person files the private criminal complaint with the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor can then either adopt the case and file formal criminal charges, or go in front of a judge with the person and convince the judge that the charges should not proceed. Technically, the judge could force the prosecutor to proceed, but I've never seen it happen. I've also only seen one private criminal complaint get adopted formally. When a private complaint is dismissed by the judge, the person usually files 5 more complaints against the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, the judge, the president judge, sometimes the governor, the president, etc. Then a substitute prosecutor has to come in to dismiss the complaints, which causes a whole new round of private complaints being filed. They are almost always a waste of time, but many times they are at least entertaining. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my car. I was young and naive at the time, never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. I explained the situation to my dad and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind in the particular circumstance. The guy ended up taking us to court, showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress, and that he explained that, by law, whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked him if that's true. He said yes. Then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the fuck up. Congratulations, if you made it this far, you are now Shappy board certified to practice law everywhere. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe.